We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. This is Robert Phoenix. I am your host and your guide today. It is the 19th of June. Excuse me. We are still here in Gemini, but phasing out quickly and approaching a very important, powerful, and illuminating time in the first degrees of Cancer. And at the end of June and the beginning of July should turn out to be a pretty interesting time, no doubt, for a lot of reasons, some of which we're going to get into today on the show. Welcome. If you haven't been listening to the show or you're new to the show, what we do here is we discuss astrology and aspects for the first hour or so, and then I jump in and do some live readings for people. So you're welcome to call in. Towards the end of the first hour, let me give you the number here just in case you're listening online and you're not connected to Blog Talk and logged in. It's 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. And you can call in a little bit later, and we can look at your chart and get into it and figure out what's going on in life. In some very interesting times. I mean, let's face it. This is not business as usual. What's really strange is that if you listen to the media now, what we're getting is a lot of propaganda about the economy recovering and how the housing market is booming. And, you know, I listen to a lot of sports talk radio, so I pay attention to the commercials. And I remember back in the early 2000s, I would say out of every 6 commercials on sports talk radio, 3 would be about refinancing your home. And once the crisis, the housing crisis and the bailout hit in 2008, that was really like maybe about 1 every 10 commercials where some refi company was on there pitching their business to you. Well, that's picked up again. So there does seem to be some kind of uptick in the housing market. Now, I'm not sure what fires or governs this in terms of these boom or bust cycles. For instance, if we were to go back to, say, 1996, let's go back to 1996, 1997, and that's when I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Glass-Steagall was repealed. So, Glass-Steagall was actually put into action then it was repealed. So if you're not aware of it, Glass-Steagall was the act that the Clinton administration put into action, and essentially it led to the abuse of the housing market, and we had an enormous real estate bubble as a result of that. And that was not by accident, by the way, because that was in the bubble cycle where first we had the tech stock and the internet bubble, and then once that burst, they had to have something right on its heels. So in 2000 and 2001, it was the housing bubble, which really lasted about 3 to 4 years. And I'll never forget that time. It was an incredible time. I was actually in the market to buy a house then, and you know they had these 3% deals in terms of your loan. 3%. That's what they were charging you. However, that 3% or that 5%, whatever it was, if you had good credit, that would end after 5 years. And after that, well, good luck, because the interest rates would go to 15 to 20%, and then that's when most people would wind up losing their properties. And that's really what happened. You had a lot of these adjustable mortgages. And I remember I had a good friend at that time who was a mortgage lender. He was an agent. And I said, hey, man, what's up with these ARMs, adjustable mortgages? And I said, they're really low, but in 5 years, he's paying through my teeth. I can tell you that right now. So, oh, no. All you have to do is after 2 years, you just have to refi. You throw down, $5,000, and you get to refi, and you'll be able to keep it there. Well, it was right to a certain extent. But what happened was that there were people at that time who could afford $5,000 or $10,000, whatever the refi costs were. And even if they could, their interest rate, which may have been 3.5%, which was going up to 15%, if they could refi it, it would go to perhaps maybe 5% or 6% or 7%, still more than their original rate that they've been guaranteed for an adjustable amount of time. But the reason I'm talking about all this right now, and hopefully it's not boring you, is because we're getting ready to enter into Cancer, and Cancer is the sign that represents home, it represents real estate, it represents home improvement, and there's some interesting aspects that are taking place in June and July, especially as it relates to the outer planets. And I'm going to get into the supermoon, which is going to occur on the 23rd. So that's an aspect that we're going to be experiencing here on Sunday, which is the end of the week. Okay. Now, we're going to have the grand water trine kick into gear, but that won't be until next Thursday. So we're going to have we're going to say goodbye to Gemini, Jupiter and Gemini in grand style next week. And we'll talk about the water trine, the shift of the water trine during this show. But we're really going to spend a lot of time next week, and it's really going to be about a looking back at Jupiter and Gemini. So you don't want to miss next week's show. It's going to be great. And we're going to look at how all of these Gemini aspects have gotten played out over the course of Jupiter and Gemini. I've been keeping tabs on a number of things that are Jupiter and Gemini related in a very big way, some of which you know. But that's going to change starting next week, and Jupiter in Cancer comes in, and it's going to be a very different energy, and one that I think can be extremely positive for everybody in general, but particularly the cardinal signs, Libra, Capricorn, and Aries. They get a little relief with Jupiter coming into Cancer, and the water signs will also have some real synergy with Jupiter in Cancer, and we're talking, of course, Scorpio, Cancer, and Pisces. So we'll talk about that a little bit today, but we're also going to talk about the grand water trine. But getting back to this whole Cancer, the supermoon, but getting back to this whole Cancer piece, the thing that is really interesting to me is that starting, well, it's pretty much right now, but we're going to be going into a cycle of retrograde planets. So if we do a quick roll call right now and just look at where everything is, we go to June. So right here we are today, it being the 19th. Pluto is already retrograde. Neptune went retrograde on the 7th. Saturn is retrograde. And on the 27th, Mercury will go retrograde. So we're going to have the planet of communication retrograde in Cancer. That's one. We're going to have Saturn retrograde, that's 2. Neptune retrograde, that's 3. Pluto retrograde, that's 4. Chiron retrograde, that's 5. 5 retrograde planets / aspects all happening simultaneously. Now, this is, to me, a very interesting wave and cycle, especially as it relates to other planets. One of the things that we're going to see, especially Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, as it opposes, you want to circle this date, right? You want to circle the 2nd of July, because at that point we're going to have a complete opposition between the Moon and Pluto. Now this is interesting because it relates to the formation of the United States, right? We're 2 days off of the solar return of the United States, which is at 12 degrees Cancer. So we have had this. I don't think we've had it to quite this degree before. Like last year, if we were to go back to last year, Pluto wasn't close to the U.S. Sun. Now, the U.S. Sun is at 12 degrees. So in 2014, which is also a very important year, we're going to have an exact opposition between Pluto and the U.S. Sun. Okay, and that's at 12 degrees. What we're going to see on the 2nd is perhaps a precursor event or a window into what 2014 will look like. And we're already seeing this duality, this polarity, this opposition, and this split taking place. If you were to go onto any number of mainstream websites, and I'm talking about mainstream websites, Yahoo, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, USA Today, without kind of a political stripe or affiliation. Maybe Fox would be not the best, but if you were to go on some neutral news sites, what you would find out is, going through the comment section, that there is probably about a 90% disapproval of the way the country is being run, the direction it's going, who's running it, and you just have to go through the comment section. You just have to go through the comment section and see how people are feeling and what they're communicating. The Vox Populi is not happy. And they're not happy because what's taking place and what has taken place over the course of the last 6 months are a series of revelations that have led to people understanding the nature of how government has become so powerful and so entrenched in our personal lives and our daily lives. It's become quite clear now that what we're dealing with is an octopus. It's an octopus that has tentacles in everything. And it's not just the fact that it has this reach and that it has this suction, but it's also the fact that it has been held back from us for a period. Well, not all of us, trust me, but for a lot of people, most people believe that things ultimately sort themselves out, right? That we have a series of checks and balances. We have the House and the Senate, and we have the executive branch, and we have the Supreme Court, right? So we have the 4 branches of government. And then you have the 5th column, which is the press. So it's between these 5 entities that somehow, through this complex sort of triage and interaction and dynamic, that no one single party or no one single vested interest can move ahead. Now, on a certain level, and gaining an advantage, on a certain level, that might actually be true if, however, the 5th column has not been compromised. And when I talk about the 5th column, I'm talking about, of course, the press and the media. And I have a friend, a really good friend, who says to me, we go through this every few months, and it's about conspiracy and how conspiracies can actually take place, how they can occur, how people can be silent over a certain period of time, the amount of collusion it would take for any number of people to keep the lid off of, to keep the lid on things. So how can they do it? How can people, shut up? Well, here's how they do it. Number one, if you were to go back in time, in maybe 15, 20 years, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but trust me, they're significant. If you were to look at the number of media outlets and media companies that existed pre-2000, say the late 90s, you would be shocked in the amount of outlets and portals that news could travel through. When you have a number of sources, and again, this is all pre kind of, internet, pre-Breitbart, pre-Huffington Post. By the way, Huffington Post was an entity unto itself until it was bought by AOL.com. So even if, and Breitbart, I don't even think it's Breitbart anymore. Who knows who owns Breitbart? But once these portals or once these media companies were established towards the end of the 20th century, the beginning of the 21st century, they were either forced out of business or they were bought up. So it went from like 40 companies to roughly 8. And that's what we're dealing with right now. I think we have 8 media conglomerates that control just about everything. And once you have a compression of source and a compression of outlets and a compression of message, then it becomes very easy to have talking points, to have POV, perspective, whatever you want to call it, narrative, that are all fairly agreed upon and then fed through the various systems. For instance, let's look at Reuters. Reuters is a news service that at one point in time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been UPI. Don't get me wrong. Don't quote me on that, but I think it might have been UPI. Here in the United States, we had UPI, we had AP. AP is still around. UPI, United Press International, they're no longer around. They've been displaced by Reuters. Now, who owns Reuters? Reuters is actually owned by the Rothschild family, as I believe AP is. So the Rothschild family is controlling the flow of news through Reuters, specifically through AP probably. So what happens now is that these 8 news outlets or these 8 media portals have to get their information from someplace. They'll do independent pieces, they'll do independent stories, but what they'll also do is they'll grab large chunks of news, which they depend on every day for the 24-hour news cycle, from the wire services. So all you have to do with the wire services is to continue to push news and POV and narrative that is part of any kind of plan or agenda or any kind of movement, whatever you want to do or however you want to massage or move people. That's the first place it starts. It starts with the wire services, because the major news outlets will grab and scoop from wire services. And they may lead for a story, which will slightly embellish everything else, but they'll usually say Reuters or AP, so there's the first level of manipulation. And I did a study quite a while back, and I think I might have even written about it on the website, but they were actually able to go in and check the news sources that Reuters would use, or people that they would attribute quotes to, or things that were related to that story that were very salient selling points. And a few times, those people either didn't exist, or they were hired. They were consultants or advisors that were hired by a government or a corporation, or the facts were just plain wrong. So this is where the news avalanche and disinformation and misinformation begins. It's with the wire services. That's how it starts. Now, once that content comes into these various portals, it's very easy to control, especially if you only have 8 of them. It's very easy to control, because now what you have is that each of them, within their various departments, you would have a news editor, or a station editor, or general manager, or news director, any of the people at a specific level. These are the people, as far as their layer is, they're really kind of the final filter. Now, the news may come through, and they may suggest a story in a particular area, or particular topic of interest. But then what happens after that is once the stories are done, and this is in-house, by the way, this is not the news feeds. But once those stories are done, then it comes back to them, and they get to look at it. They get to say, well, this is appropriate, this is inappropriate, we need to pull back on this because of our sponsors, or whatever they deem the reason to be able to either edit, kill, or push back. Now, this stuff. So, what I'm getting at here is that these people who are in these positions, very important positions, they have the thumbs up or the thumbs down, the Roman thumbs up, the Roman thumbs down for any kind of content that goes through. So, who would these people be? Well, they would be, in essence, the most powerful, important people at any news gathering organization. It's the editor. It is the news director, whoever they are. Now, I would assume, and this is probably a pretty safe assumption, because I've been told this, by the way, that most of the people that are in those roles have ties to our friends in intelligence agencies, the NSA, the CIA, the NRO, the FBI, mostly CIA. So what they do now is they actually answer to two bosses. They answer to the boss there at the station, which is about ratings, which is about money, and they answer to another boss, which is about controlling the flow of information. So now they've got people in place, so they kind of push stories in a certain direction, or they can kill stories. This is how secrets are kept. This is how quote-unquote conspiracies become conspiracies and not news, because there are people in place that control the flow of information. Now, let's go to the final piece around this. So let's say somehow it's not about mainstream media, the 8 media outlets that get 2 major feeds coming from essentially the same source, saying mostly the same thing, being filtered and edited by people in high places that have connections with other parts of the government. Now, look, I'm going to say one thing before I go on to the next cycle. Let's just say that there is a benign interest involved. Let's just say that these people that are at these stations or newspapers or radio stations or whatever, that there is a reason for them not just to, quote unquote, divert from the truth, but also in very critical times keep us from panicking. Perhaps there is an aspect to this which is vital and important and plays a significant role. I'm just putting that out there, okay? Because I think there is a measure of that. Have to be fair and balanced, but I also think that there is a very, very strong indicator that this is how the news is kept in a certain pen and corralled. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when we go on to like Fox News or CNN or any of these other stations, what we get is opinion. We don't get news. We don't get hard facts. We get opinion. And if you go back in time, you go back into 2001, 2002, especially 2001, 2002, big time, you will see on Fox News all these guys. They're sitting down with Hannity and all those other foxholes, and they were saying, oh yeah, well, we've got to watch out for Saddam Hussein. He's got a major history in the region. He's done this and he's done this, and this is the capability that he has, and this is the firepower that exists there. And we've been watching him for years now, and we really feel like this is an explosive situation. People in the region, our friends in that area, the people like Israel are great friends of this country. They're really potentially at risk. And we do feel that he's a considerable threat. Those guys, retired General John Frankenheim, that guy was hired. They busted these guys. They were all paid advisors. And they were all paid to come on to Fox News and sell the war. It was like some guy in his uniform with shiny little things on it, or some guy in a suit. They're there, and they're pushing the fact that Saddam Hussein is the greatest threat to mankind ever. But people heard that enough and heard it enough and heard enough especially in the conservative world, which was important, was an important sell to the conservative audience, well, they were bored. It didn't matter at that point. It didn't matter whether or not he did 9/11, which they were trying very hard to convince people of. It didn't matter whether he supposedly harbored Al-Qaeda, which was really strange. I mean, let's just go back in time. Since we're doing a little retrograde here, let's go back in time. Saddam Hussein was a Ba'athist, okay? He was a secularist. He was a secularist. This is a guy that promoted women. If you were to go into Iraqi culture at that time, women were almost as honored as men. They were doctors, they were people, they were educators, they were lawyers. I mean, the Baathists were extremely liberal. They were very liberal. They had no ties to this radical Shiite Muslim community. And in fact, Saddam Hussein was hated by those guys because Saddam Hussein was a progressive. Isn't that ironic? He was actually a progressive inside of his own country. Now, I'm not saying Saddam Hussein is a good guy. Look, if you're going to be a dictator and you're going to run a country, you got to kill a few people. That's just the way it is. And anytime you want to have your rule of law and order, people are going to come after you, and you got to be ruthless. That's the law of the jungle, and it's been going on since people discovered blunt objects on this planet. Okay, that's just the way it is. And he's no different than any other quote unquote dictator or somebody who looks as though they might be progressive or democratic, but will fight to the death to maintain their position and rank at any stop along the way. And so he was not in bed at all with Al-Qaeda. And yet that's what was sold. Why? Because the news was being contorted and manipulated, and how people were being conditioned. And what's happening, and we're going all the way around the block here, what's happening is that's changing now. Because people have seen over time, they've seen the left hand and they've seen the right hand. And the left hand and the right hand are doing exactly the same thing. Exactly the same. There is very little difference from the Barack Obama administration and the George Bush administration. It is a terrible pill to swallow, but people are now taking that pill and they're looking at it. They're saying, we are screwed. Because no matter who's in that office, no matter what group or what regime is in that office, no matter what party, the same thing is happening. And in fact, over the course of the last 5 years, they've been accelerating under the leadership of somebody who said when they got into office, or before they got into office, that they would be transparent and that there would be change. And the transparency has only come about because people inside of that administration have decided that they want to open the floodgates. They want to tell people what's going on. So we have a rash of whistleblowers inside the Obama administration coming forth. Now, what's going to happen is that as we get into, again, this is in the 2nd of July, and we have the sun opposing Pluto at 10 degrees. 10 is an interesting number. It's a power number, and it is really the beginning of a new cycle. Right? It is 1 plus 0. It's 1, and it's right after 9. Obviously, 9 is the end of a cycle. So on July 2nd, we're going to have this opposition between Cancer, Sun in Cancer, 10 degrees, which is very much associated with home, hearth, nurturing, loving, sustenance, people, families, babies, real estate, housing. Those are the things that we associate with Cancer. Pluto and Capricorn, I've said it before, I'll say it again, probably until Pluto and Capricorn moves into Pluto and Aquarius, it is all about the rise of the plutocracy, the corporatocracy, the merging of governments and corporations under one umbrella, where Monsanto makes the rules, where the government decides that they're going to enforce the rules. You name it, this is the merging that we're involved in now, and people are seeing that. So when we go to July 2nd, we're seeing the potential for massive, and I mean a massive opposition between these two energies. Now, this is not exclusive, an exclusive domain related to the United States. This is happening all across the planet. We've seen it in Turkey, even, and we've seen the ramp up in Turkey, and what's happening in Turkey is actually kind of amazing. I really don't think that the quote unquote powers that be saw that coming. This is not an Arab Spring kind of moment. This is not what they wanted, because again, Turkey is a strategic partner in a NATO alliance right across from Syria, where they're really trying to kickstart World War III. And they've had to deal with all kinds of internal strife, and they've had to call on army forces inside of Turkey in order to quell these protests. The protest movement on a global scale is also exploding as well. Now, we have to be careful, because understand that we are dealing with forces that have immense esoteric and occult knowledge, which means that they can envision and forecast cycles even before they occur, and then plan events accordingly. All you have to do, and I've used this on a number of occasions, all you have to do is go back in time, Queen Elizabeth I, and look at her relationship with John Dee. John Dee being the great magus of his day, and one of the great maguses of all time. And Dee was a mathematician. He was also an astrologer, and he was able to help Queen Elizabeth I on the appropriate cycles with which to rule England and push back the Catholic threat coming from Spain. So all we have to do is go back that far, and quite frankly, that's not that far at all, to understand the relationship between the ruling class, seers, mostly astrologers, astrology itself, cosmic cycles, and the implementation of plans, agendas, projects, you name it, in order to take advantage of the momentum, the astral momentum, as it relates to what's taking place in the world. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I don't know if you've been following this, but Brazil is under some serious duress when it comes to protests. And what's happening in Brazil, which is kind of fascinating, is that Brazil is part of this group of countries, the BRIC and PIG. Think about that. Countries in the world have been distilled down to these acronyms, BRICS and PIGs. So the BRIC countries are Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And these countries have been the beneficiary of lots of money being invested into them since the beginning of the 21st century. And so their infrastructure and their economies have grown. And Brazil's economy has grown. However, it is now flatlining, and they're starting to experience inflation. So what's taking place in Brazil is that, and there's a lot going on there. They've got the World Cup. I mean, of course, they're overspending. They're over budget. This is what happens in Brazil. I mean, they just they'll get money and they'll have a budget and they'll just completely explode that thing time and time again. But anyway, so they're over budget with the World Cup. There's all this kind of ostentatious, lavish expenditures going on with the World Cup. And meanwhile, they had to raise the bus fare 5 cents or 10 cents. 10 cents. And the bus fares there are actually supported by the state. So the state jumps in and pays part of the bus fare, especially if you're a student or somebody who's from the underclass. Now, what's really strange is that this 10-cent rate hike in the bus fare has prompted massive protests. But it's not just massive protests. There is a culture of protest and a cycle of protests that are going on in Brazil right now, and they're using everything they can, every kind of meme or theme possible to kickstart a climate of protest in Brazil. And it's not coming from the middle classes. It's not coming from the lower middle classes. It's coming from the youth. It's coming from the Pluto and Scorpio generation, the millennials. And so these protests are being manufactured. And I'm sure that there's probably, some people say, well, there's a lot of corruption going on in Brazil, and there's a reason for this. I have no doubts. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because the powers that be are understanding that we're coming into this grand water trine and this opposition between Cancer and Capricorn, and what they're doing is they're stoking the fires and creating almost like a controlled burn by having these protests come out, by appearing and creating this illusion that the world is becoming upset and tired and fed up with the situation. They're actually facilitating their own version of awakening. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is a simulacra of awakening. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people that aren't awakening, because they are. But what they're doing is they're getting out in front of it, and they're controlling the movement based on the types of protests that are going on. It's actually very, very sophisticated. And when we have Cancer and we have Pluto and Capricorn in opposition, this will really rise to the surface in a big, big way. Okay? So I'm putting that out there. You need to know it. You need to think about it. These are cycles that are going on. Neptune is retrograde. And when we talk about Neptune, what do we talk about? We talk about illusion. It's a big planet of illusion. One of the most difficult, as an astrologer, one of the most difficult planets to interpret is Neptune, because of its really kind of ephemeral and viscous and misty kind of influence in the chart, in the individual's chart for sure. We can say, hey, Neptune is a really powerful, spiritual, compassionate force, but it's also one of those things. I did a reading for somebody last week, and they had Neptune on their midheaven, and they didn't know what to do with their lives. So I said, what are you doing with your life? And so we talked, and I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and I'm doing this. And I said, you may not know it, but you're living your Neptune on your midheaven. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. You just can't see it. You're like a fish that's in the ocean. The fish doesn't know it's in the ocean. You see, that's the fish's medium. So it's a Pisces metaphor, I know. But it's the fish's medium. And so you don't know that you're actually doing what you're supposed to do. I'm here to kind of help you out with that. I'm here to remind you. So Neptune is tricky. However, when it goes retrograde, what we can agree upon is that we will become more open to illusion and what illusion is and the source of illusion than at any other time. So this is actually a very important movement, this Neptune retrograde. Chiron in Pisces is retrograde as well. So there's a peeling back of illusion. And when we do peel those layers back, it is kind of horrific. It's like, oh, did I really want to know that? That's kind of what's going on here. So all of these things are happening simultaneously. Now there's more, and I'm going to get into it. I'm going to get into it in a minute, okay? And I want to talk about the supermoon. I want to talk about the degrees of the supermoon as they relate to the Sabian symbols. It's very important. Very, very important. And I've got a bunch of people online right now in the queue that want to do readings, I'm sure. And I want to get to you, so don't go away. Don't go away. I'm going to get to you. 928-646-604, 850-818. I'm going to get to you. Before I do, though, I'm going to play a little bit of music, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to talk about the supermoon and the degrees of the supermoon that are very important. All right, I'm going to play Edgar's story. This is from my boy Mark Daniels, a.k.a. Charleuse. If you like this song, Mark is a Cancer, by the way. If you like this song, you can find it on iTunes now. under Charlus. That's Charlus. Charlus, now available on iTunes. Here's Edgar's story. I'll be back in 4 minutes. We're going to talk about the supermoon, and then we're going to get into readings. This is Robert Phoenix. You're listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix, and I will be back shortly. Oh, it's Mark Daniels, a.k.a. Charlus, and Edgar's story, which you can find on iTunes. I apologize for the patchy signal today. I'm having a rough time myself in terms of keeping this connection happening. But we're going to get through, and we're going to do the rest of the show, and we'll be fine. I want to talk about the supermoon and the degree which supermoon is taking place. This is really in my mind, quite important, especially as it relates to these Sabian symbols. Now, the sun that day will be at 1 degree on the supermoon, which is the 23rd. 1 degree Cancer, so the opposition to that would be 1 degree Capricorn. And here is the Sabian symbol for that. An Indian chief claims power from the assembled tribe. The keynote here is the power and responsibility implied in any claim for leadership. The religious idea implied in the preceding symbol has now materialized or crystallized into sheer power, the power to lead the community and to ensure its welfare or even its physical survival. The energy is released through group cooperation, Libra, deepen and emotionally experienced as forces of great potency, Scorpio, and given meaning and conscious purpose, Sagittarius, are now stabilized and archized. That's Capricorn. The power of the group is turned into a measurable and carefully managed capital. The words chief and capital come from the same Latin word caput, meaning head. A time comes in many lives when the individual finds himself placed in a situation that allows him to assume power over his comrades, however limited this power may be. Is he ready to do this effectively and responsibly? This is the supreme test of man in society. It complements its polar opposites, summer solstice degree, we're talking Cancer, which refers to acceptance by the individual of a new kind of allegiance as a foundation for the integration of his mature personality. Such a foundation may but not need refer to as down at home. This is what it is, Cancer. This represents the first stage in a fivefold process, the 55th sequence of 5 symbols, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 being the number of man, 5 in the tarot, all those nasty little 5 cards in the minor arcana. Take note of that. It refers to the capacity latent in every individual to claim and assume authority in a vital group situation. So that's happening on a collective level with the supermoon. We go up 1 degree, next degree, it says 3 rose windows in a Gothic church, 1 damaged by war. The necessary realization by any individual making a violent use of collective power that will lead to the inevitable destruction of some of the values ensuring group integration. It seems obvious that the interpretation of this symbol will refer to the disruptive concept of war. The chief who claimed power from his side or to lead save it must reckon the concept of a two-impulse power is of violence. The integration he seeks to maintain or enhance may destroy his ambition to be a war leader, glorified his people. A rose window is not absolutely that through which the light of the spirit enters into the abyss. Man is said to be threefold. Which part of man's inner trinity of principles tend to be destroyed by the use of violence? Evidently, the principle of love and compassion. The second stage symbol is in contrast to the preceding one because it opposes the power to destroy to the power to build. The capital of group energies is partially squandered in armament, debt, and death. Waste is the opposite of group integration. What's very interesting about all this is the use of the word capital. Capital. Now, Rodier used capital as in das Kapital, as money currency. However, capital has another inference as it relates to Washington, D.C. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's a movie coming out called White House Down, which happens to, I believe, start this Friday, which is right at the nape of the supermoon. And it's about the destruction of Washington, D.C., or at least part of the Capitol. And it's a clear interpretation of Gemini, because you have Channing Tatum, who is the maverick. He's the maverick, secret agent. He's, one of the president's men. He's the maverick. He's the guy they can't control. And the president, of course, is Jamie Foxx. It kind of looked like Obama. I guess Will Smith was busy doing something else, so they got Jamie Foxx. And Jamie Foxx is the president who becomes action hero. How about that? But it's their duality, right? It's duality, black and white. You've got the man of duty, order, and purpose, and the president, and you've got the radical Secret Service guy who is a maverick and plays by his own rules, but it's that guy who's going to help save the country. So it's this duality coming together in the form of one individual, but you again look at these two sequences. Now, am I saying it's going to happen in Washington, D.C.? Of course, next year or so? I know. But the interest, based on what we're reading here, based on matrix, and based on these oppositions between Cancer and Capricorn, which we've talked about for the majority of the show so far. All right, let's get into some readings, and hopefully the connection here will be strong enough and robust enough. Let's go to the 928 area code, and let's see, what time is it? I guess we can do some readings if we can keep the signal. Here we go. Hello there.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
What was that?
Can you hear me okay?
Sort of.
All right, we'll try it, okay? Because
Okay.
I can hear myself, and sometimes it's the most important thing in the world for me to just be able to hear myself, but I'm just kidding. So, what's your name?
Alfina?
Elisina?
Yeah, Alphina.
Okay, Elisina. Okay, so you're here for a reading. Is this the first time you've called into the show? I think it is, isn't it?
Yes, it's the first time I called in. I called in like a week ago, but the show was over or something.
Aha. Oh, that was you. I remember that call. Well, good for you. Good for calling back in. Okay, and thanks for your patience. First of all, what's your birthday? Where were you born? What time? And what would you like to get into today?
My birthday is December 8, 1987. I was born at 9:04 a.m. and I was born in Tuba City, Arizona.
All right. Just opening up the software now. So let's do this. You know, I don't want to do that chart. Sorry, I was talking to myself to find the right chart to work from. Let's go with this one. Okay. And we'll go here. All right. So that was December. Are you there?
Yes.
December what?
December 8.
December 8. Okay. And the year again?
1987.
1987. And time?
9:04 a.m.
4 p.m.?
9:04, like 9:04 in the morning.
Okay, thank you. And that was in Yuma?
No, Tuba City.
Cuba City.
Yeah, Arizona.
Okay, I didn't know there was a Cuba City. That's interesting. What's the nearest big city?
What was that?
What is the nearest big city to it?
Flagstaff.
Okay. Hold on here. Hold on. There we go. All right. Thanks for your patience. Okay. I've got your chart dialed up. What would you like me to look at or get into with you?
I've actually went into a relationship just recently, and I'm wondering if,
If it's a good thing?
Yeah.
Well, if they're Cancer or Gemini or like Taurus, it could be. What's their sign?
They're actually a Gemican or something like that. Like they're in the cups of Gemini and Cancer.
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
So, yeah, it is good because that put their sun right around. Well, let's see. You've got your Chiron at 26 Gemini. So their sun would be, if they're at the cusp, right around 28, 29. That's past your Chiron, which is good. It's leading towards your 7th house, which is the house of Cancer in your chart, which is the house of relationships. And for you, you are, let's see, you've got that Sag. Well, Uranus is at 26. So you're going to have probably a Sun-Uranus opposition. That's a tricky opposition, by the way. It could be slightly unstable. I would have to look at more of their chart. When were they born?
June 21st.
In what year?
I think it was 1982.
All right, let's take a crack at that. June 21st. So he's a solstice kid, which is pretty powerful. People that are born on the solstices or the equinoxes have very interesting energy. Okay, so he's at 29 degrees right there. Sun. Looks like he's got a Cancer moon, which is good for you. There's a 7th house. Mercury in Gemini, Venus in Taurus. The Venus is up. That's at 24 degrees. Are you still with me? Are you there? I lost her. Hello? Damn it. All right. I think I may have lost the connection. Let me just try this. Are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, good. All right. So I lost the connection with her. I don't know what happened. But let me just go through this in case you're listening. Go back to my windows. He has Venus in Taurus, which puts his Venus in your 5th house. Is actually a really good house, to be honest with you, for romance and partnership. Although I have a delay. Good. Although you dropped off. Although with Venus and Taurus, that's good, but you've got this opposition between Uranus and Sun, which can make for an unstable relationship. Venus and Taurus in your 5th house will ground it. I would say it's worth pursuing, exploring. The best way that you could do is to get to know this person, be able to create, would be to create physical intimacy. So there we go. Let's go to another call. Hello.
Hello, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
What's your name?
Tony.
Hey, Tony. Where are you calling from?
Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, you've been on the show before. I recognize your voice.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay, so what's up, Tony? What do you want to talk about?
I guess I'm looking to inquire about career and, just see how that's looking for me.
Okay, let me go to this chart here. Why don't you go ahead and give me all your info again, please?
All right, it's June 30th, 1970, 5:21 a.m.
5:21 a.m.
Yeah, 5:21 a.m.
Okay, where did that take place?
I'm sorry?
Where were you born?
Brooklyn, New York.
All right, here we go. Let's do this. Brooklyn, New York. There it is. Right there, bang. June 30th, 1970, 5:21 a.m. Okay, career. All right, so your 10th house, which is the house of career, is shared by Pisces and Aries. And the intent of the 10th house in your chart lies at the midheaven with 13 degrees Pisces, which, interestingly enough, I was talking about Pisces midheaven earlier in the show. And the purpose of the Pisces midheaven is to have a spiritual interaction and a spiritual covenant with the world, meaning that that which you do has some kind of spiritual import, and to be able to share that with the world, which is challenging because, as we know, at times, spirituality and commerce do not always commingle unless you're sitting on Oprah's chair or Oprah's couch, in which case you can make a lot of money. But you're here to serve and to enlighten people to the spiritual potential of life. That is your purpose. You can see this with the true node in the 9th house at 4 degrees in Pisces. So you're here to teach, you're here to share, you're here to exemplify spiritual ideals. That is your life purpose. Now, what's interesting is that your house, your 10th house, is also shared by Aries. And that's a very different energy than Pisces. Pisces is selfless, Pisces is giving, Pisces is compassionate. Aries, on the other hand, is dynamic, it is energized, it is will-based, it makes things happen. Now, you have your 10th house split between these two energies, which means that you have the potential of having a spiritually oriented purpose with your life, but also what I would call the astrological, the cosmic technology, in order to make this a very active and will-based decision in your life. So Chiron in Aries in the 10th house is all about your ability to use your will, use your decision-making process, and to move forward with ideas, projects, and passions in order to make this happen. Now, Chiron is also where we're challenged, the most challenged, because we have to reconcile our ability to embrace things in our lives that society, our parents, our culture have forced us in some ways to suppress or repress. And one of the hardest Chirons, I think, is Chiron and Aries, because people with Chiron and Aries want to be able to take the lead, want to be able to make things happen, they want to be able to take charge, but because at times in their lives they've been told that they're stepping out of line, that they're not appropriate, to put it back in the box, they have a difficult time amassing their energy in order to stake a claim and say, this is what's going to be done, I'm the one who's going to do it, and here's the expression of my will. With Uranus there on your Chiron currently, I'm beginning to move backwards, it marks a kind of a radical departure in terms of what you do or how you choose to make your career manifest. Whatever it is, it's got to be spiritual on some level, but with Uranus there, it's about reorienting in a very quick and dramatic fashion. Now, your Chiron, it also is in square with Mars just a little bit. So you have Mars in Cancer, which is it's fall, and when you have Chiron squaring Mars, these are cardinal degrees, things can be very frustrating at times, like why can't I move ahead? Why can't I just choose one thing and make that thing happen? You know, why do I have these good ideas or these good intentions or this good energy and things get sidetracked or people don't embrace what I'm doing? Well, that's going to change for you because Uranus on your Chiron says you must do something dramatic to redress what you're doing with your career. Sometimes when people have Uranus on their Chiron in the 10th house, it could mean that they would step out of their current job and say, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to teach astrology, or whatever that thing is for you that is about you and about what you bring to the world, which is a combination of spirituality, a combination in self-serving and showing the world a different way to live, but also do it in an individual way. You have to be the leader. You have to be the point person. You've got Sun in Cancer right on your ascendant. It's right there. Your personality. You've got Mars in the first house, which is almost, those planets almost like being an Aries. So in terms of career, bringing together the potential to nurture, bring together the potential to grow, understand people, work with people, heal people, bring people to a greater spiritual understanding about their lives. So you being that guy, this is what you're here to do. Now, Jupiter is coming into your first house. We'll start there after next week. So you're going to have a Jupiter-Sun conjunction. You're going to have a Jupiter-Mars conjunction later in the summer. It's a very dynamic time. Anything you do, Tony, to be the point person and to lead is going to be right up your alley and your calling for right now. Now, I don't know what to do, but if you ever wanted to start a restaurant, this would actually be a great time for you to start a restaurant because all these planets are kind of amassing in your first house in Cancer. So it's a good time for risk. It's a good time to expand. It's a good time for you to try to figure out how you can make your spiritual work with the midheaven and Pisces work for you, help you pay some bills, nurture and assist other people. This is really that time. And I do believe that the first few weeks of June leading all the way up to August, September of this year are going to be very important for you in order to make some of those moves. And part of this, too, has something to do with your father. And it's about doing, it may not be doing the same thing that your father did, but it might be picking up a thread from your father's life that would be important to the type of work that you do. Because with your Sun right on the ascendant, the father energy is very, very prominent. So I don't know what your story with your father is, but there is this emergence of something that he did that becomes very important what you will do, and that really comes out over the course of the next couple of months.
Wow. That's it was kind of deep that you said picking up the thread because my father's a tailor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I caught that.
That's interesting. I don't know why I said that, but these things happen, right?
Yeah.
Do you make clothes at all or design clothes?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Do you make or design clothes?
No. As far as what I do is I write and I teach, and I'm planning to go into the classroom in after September. And as far as writing goes, I was working on a few children projects, and it was kind of interesting that what you were saying because the stories were dealing with the spiritual aspect of life. So yeah. I was planning to either try to get it self-produced or send it out to publishers.
I think that's a great thing because when I look at your chart, there are two things that reinforce this.
Hello?
Pattern is in your fifth house right now. So focusing and working with.
Hello? Yeah, you broke up a little bit. Hello? Hello?
Are you there? Are you there, Tony?
Yes, yes, I am.
Yeah, sorry, we dropped out a little bit there. Anyway, the true node is in your house of publishing. So stay with it, hang with it. I think that's perfect. I think it's a really good.
Yeah, hello? Hello, hello, hello? 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 Hello?
I apologize. I'm having some minutes today. So, but anyway, thumbs up. I say yes. Stay in that course. Maybe figure out a way for you to put a father theme into one of your stories. Maybe that's where this is all headed.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Take care, Tony.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I'm having a challenging time with my internet connection today. So let me take one more call. Let's see how this goes, and we'll roll from there.
Oh, hello. Thank you. Hi.
Hi there.
It's Charlene. I know the sound is a little bit off today, so I don't think it's my connection.
Is this the gardener? Is this the gardener?
Sorry? Am I a gardener? Not much of a gardener. I live on a farm.
Oh, okay. All right. So your name is Charlene?
Yes. I called you a couple weeks ago. Did I lose you? Lose you, Robert? Hello? 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 I'm going to try calling you back. Hello?
So are you still there? Hello?
You're still there too?
Hello?
Yay! Hi.
Hey.
I don't know what.
So what I did is I'm now calling in on my cell phone.
Awesome.
So the line won't go. There's a challenge right now with Skype and Blog Talk. So what we're experiencing is a kind of an overload, and I apologize for that. But here we are. So let's get into your chart now.
Thank you. Okay, I'm on a voice system, so it's a little less noisy though for your end. Okay, Charlene, I'm August 31st, 62.
August 31st. Was that 62?
That's correct. And
Okay.
Prince George, BC, at 6:50 p.m.
Hold on a second. I got to go back to 1962. And what time? I'm sorry?
6:50 p.m.
Okay.
in Prince George.
Prince George, British Columbia?
That's correct.
All right. All righty. Here we go. Prince George, BC. All right. So we are there now. And come on.
I'm asking about that darn man again because You saw some things opening up, and I kind of lose track on time. There's been too much going on in my life as of late. I feel like it's getting calmer. I'm feeling less sad about everything, but Lord Almighty.
Oh, yeah. There's the Neptune on the midheaven. I remember this chart. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So let's just go over this. 8-degree Virgo Sun, and then you've got Aquarius Ascendant, correct? And then Moon, also in Virgo, right?
Yeah. I've got a lot of stuff going on in my chart.
You do. You've got an extremely wide 7th house, Leo, Virgo, Libra, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 aspects in a house that's nearly, almost 70 degrees, over 70 degrees. So the biggest challenge for you in life is relationships versus the self and what you want to do in terms of a personality and experience as a personality. You've got Saturn right on your ascendant in Aquarius, which gives you a very strong kind of idealistic bent in terms of your own personal expression. The thing for you, and it's Charlene, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. The thing for you, Charlene, is that you will evolve more into your selfhood the older you get. So we see that with Saturn right on the ascendant. And really, this should have been taking place for you more so over the course, I would say, of the last 10 years. But it will never go away, this Saturn on the ascendant. And the way Saturn works is, I'll give you an example, okay? It's kind of an interesting example, but off. So last night during the game between the Miami Heat and the San Antonio Spurs, there was a point in the fourth quarter where LeBron James took off his headband. It was late in the game. And LeBron James is a Capricorn. And the headband around his head is a symbol of Saturn, like the ring of Saturn.
Okay.
And what he did is he took that off late in order to free himself from identification with his own individuality, his own sense of his self at that point in time, and to perhaps even reinvent himself or have a surge of vitality that would get him through the end of the game. And for him, whatever it did, it worked. So what we're seeing is, as exemplified by LeBron James, was that late in the game, Capricorn, he removed the shackles or the rings of Saturn from around his head so that he could be regenerated and play the game with a youthful abandon. That, in some ways, is Saturn on your ascendant. And as you progress through the years, you will become more youthful, but not just youthful, your orientation about becoming more progressive, more expansive, more inventive, more individual will also become much more pronounced as well. So the key for you, if we look at Saturn as a key indicator in the chart, which it is, the key for you is anytime you have the opportunity to play in a way or lighten things up in a way or take the piss out of something, do it. Because that is going to take the burden off. Because also Saturn on the ascendant can be very heavy. Can be very, very heavy. Like being born with some kind of social responsibility. Like feeling as though you are tasked with something very important, very responsible, and you have to get it done. It can be almost like an anchor or cross to bear in this lifetime. But the flip side of that is that you can also lighten up. So get your work done, be that responsible Saturn on your ascendant, and once the work is done, then, play, lighten up, be innovative, be inventive, because you have that. And as you go drop down into your first house, you have Jupiter, you have Chiron. They're both in Pisces. Neptune is, so you're going through your Chiron return, okay? And the Chiron return, you've already gone through it, I believe, because your Chiron is at 8 degrees. And I think, where's Chiron right now? Let me just try to find it. Chiron is at, hold on. Yeah, so Chiron right now is at 13 degrees. So you've already had transiting Chiron go across your natal Chiron. Now, it goes to 9, I believe. I think it goes back to 1 degree of your natal Chiron. And that's important because there is another piece to your puzzle here, and it's in the first house. And you just, anything that you could do in order to expand and express your compassion, your creativity, your love of beauty, the ability to make people feel good about themselves, anything that you can do towards that end is going to be very empowering for you.
It is.
Are you there?
Yeah. It is. That's you're nailing it. So funny because and what I'll say is it's only life. Don't take it so seriously, because we're not getting out alive. It's our job to just do what we can to honor ourselves and be that who we are, which is fun and amazing. It can be hard though. It's been painful, definitely.
It is. I could see that for you. You've got that Grand Trine and water going on. Just wait a couple of weeks. Wait 2 weeks and call me back. Because you're gonna be there are things that are gonna be opening up for you, but you are the key. It's not other people. You are the key. In this country, we have a TV series called Mad Men. Are you familiar with it?
No, I don't watch too much television, Robert. Sorry.
Okay, well, it's an interesting series, and there's a character on Mad Men. His name is Bob Benson, and Bob Benson is he has this ability to make people feel better. And he listens to these self-help records. He's an interesting character. Today, I ran across a self-help book by kind of a Christian mystic whose name happens to be Bob Benson. So there may be some tie-in with this Christian mystic. But one of the things that Bob Benson says during this one episode where he confronts one of the partners at the company in this TV show, he says, what if you met somebody in your life that would do basically everything for you and love you unconditionally no matter what, and the most important thing in that person's life was to make you happy? How would that change your life, and would that be so wrong? And it kind of really stopped that other person, this guy, Pete Campbell, in his tracks. He was just like, wow, nobody's ever come at me with the full force of that unconditional love, and you just did in this lifetime. And that's kind of like Jupiter and Chiron right there in your first house, because that is the kind, without completely becoming, subservient and losing your own will, that's the kind of energy that I'm talking about. And the more that you bring that into your first house and into your persona and allow people to experience this deeply profound unconditionality, the more things will open up for you. And they will open up for you very quickly. Like the floodgates will be released. Why? Because you are a part of the grand water trine that's going to be taking place. So let go of some of that Virgo intensity and just allow yourself to be fully present with people and to risk the in some ways the safety of the moment and allow that love to come through and allow that compassion to come through, and you will blow people away. And the right people will respond to you, and they'll say, I don't know who you are or what you do, but I want you to be a part of what I'm doing because you have got something going on here that is precious, important, spiritual, magical, whatever word they use to describe that. That's your key, okay? And Cancer, coming into Jupiter, sixth house, which is where it's going to conjunct your Mars and then go into your sixth house within the next month, that means that there's a new creative dynamic opening for you in terms of the type of work that you're about to do. But the key is in the first, and the key is showing up and being completely emotionally open and willing to risk. You do that, and your life is going to get very interesting.
Do you think then that I should be letting go of the idea of the relationship that I was in? Well, I think I've given him. Yeah, go ahead.
If he cannot accept and embrace your unconditionality, then why would you want to be with that person? I'm just putting that out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I believe he does, but again, it's you can't make somebody do something faster or whatever. You've got to just love them.
But the unconditionality also would be, hey, because one of the things you can do, I mean, in terms of, this is not necessarily manipulative, okay, but there are ways in which you can motivate and move people. One of them is to motivate and move them through fear, right? And the way that you do that is and this is what, there are three motivations that Madison Avenue Advertising, they actually prey upon, these three motivations. One is fear. And fear is all about the great commercial that really symbolized this was when Michelin tires, the Dunlop tires, I think it was Michelin, they took their tires and they stuck a baby in their tires. And what they were doing is they were preying upon the fear of parents of losing their baby in a car accident and the baby dying. So what they did is they made a connection with tires, buying the tires to keep the baby alive. I mean, it was really, in some ways, quite pornographic and manipulative, but it was genius, too. So that's one example. It's fear. The other example that they prey upon is envy. And somebody has something that you don't. In order to be as successful or powerful or as happy, you want that. And so it's envy. Right. The third one that they're going to start to prey upon, theoretically, is love. But they would only do it from a manipulative point of view, right? That you could get more love, which might be fear or might be envy, but you could get more love if you did certain things, if you purchased certain things. But the same thing happens in relationships as well. If you want to motivate somebody, theoretically, you put the fear of God in them. You say, if you don't do this, I'm going to leave you. Boom. The second strategy would be, I'm going to look so hot and flirt with other men that you're going to be envious of them and me, and you'll want to pay more attention to me. These are two strategies that people commonly employ. The third really is love, which is not manipulative, and you lay it out there and you say, this is it. I unconditionally love you. This is where I want to be. But if you're not going to be there, I will continue to love you. And if you can convey that to that person, you will either motivate them to join you, or you will motivate them to be a little unsettled, in which case they may have to make some other kind of decision. Because when you get to that potency and frequency of signal of love, then it will shake people's worlds up. And so if that's what you want to do, then you can try that. But it's only as a result of you getting in touch with it for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
So if I were you, I would just enjoy your ride. I mean, regardless of the relationship, get into you. Be that loving, creative, wonderful, compassionate, spiritual, Jupiter Pisces, Chiron Pisces, first house, character you can be. Because what happens is that you get into that part of yourself, it takes this emphasis off of the intensity of Pluto and the Sun and Uranus and Virgo in the seventh house of relationships. You're moving that energy away from what you need and desire into what you are and what you can contribute. And then, of course, nature abhors a vacuum, and so what happens? You get backfilled by what you theoretically would need. So that's what I would do. And with this grand trine coming up, you don't want to miss it. You want to invest in you, but you in the grandest, most wonderful sense of possibility and potential that you are. So live it, be it, breathe it, exude it, and let the world, the rest of the world, deal with it. How does that sound?
Follow. When does it happen? You said 2 weeks?
Yeah, so next week on the next Thursday, Jupiter moves into Cancer 1 degree, or 0 degrees, and so we're talking for you. You've got Jupiter at 7 degrees Pisces, so really about 2 weeks out. But you're going to feel it. You're going to feel that shift because Jupiter is right now in Gemini and it's moving into Cancer. It's going to be in your 5th house, which is creativity, heart, romance, passion. So I would say starting, next week, you'll feel the surge. You'll feel this surge of, quiet confidence and feeling like, for lack of a better term, I don't give a fuck about the rest of the world. I'm going to live my life and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to exude and be confident. And there it is. And then watch what happens. You'll melt people. You will melt people.
I kind of do anyway, but it'd be nice if I can actually have some doors open instead of. It's not that I repel them because I'm.
Yeah.
What's the word for it? I can scare people because I'm very expanded and I think more intergalactically because I truly understand the energy attracts like matter. All thought is created and love is all there is, and that is the sole purpose. That's why we're here. I'm an activator and I'm a healer, but I'm also. I had a lot of dysmorphia growing up and understanding who I am and what I am, and it's been, okay, so wow, this is, geez, I'm lucky to be me, but it's been a very challenging life. The chances are great I'll be here another 100 years. So because of that, I do really mind my temple and take good care of myself. And it's funny that you touched on the youth because I literally will say I have a genetic cellular structure of a 20-year-old because I know I'm probably going to be here for a long time. It was not even conscious a choice with that because Earth's density is pretty dense. It's a low frequency to live in.
It is,
so we have
but it's lightening up. It's lightening up, right? I mean, in some ways. So your time is coming.
That would be really pleasant.
Yeah, it's like catching a wave. The wave is coming. You just got to catch it. So start paddling.
I am ready. Robert, I'm really glad I called you again. It took me a bit to try and figure out where you're at, and it's funny on the communication thing, but I guess we keep trying. And FYI, Chilliwack, I just caught one of my buddies who's a huge music activist. He posted, I guess Chilliwack, they were looking for Too Loud McLeod, who was one of the players. So there was a big thing on the news media where these people, they found the guitar that this original person had, and they wanted to, so it's on concert with them.
Okay.
So I was saying it because you made mention about the town Chilliwack, which is random.
Oh, Chilliwack. Yeah, Chilliwack. That's right. Yeah, Chilliwack. The band Chilliwack. Amazing. Well, listen, you have a great day, okay?
Hey, you too. Thank you so much for your time and your read.
Okay. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so here we go. Multitasking in the multiverse. Hello there. Hello? Can we get a... You're on there? All right, let's put you back on hold. Let's try this one. Let's see what we got here. Hello?
Hello, hi.
Yeah, hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm better now that I figured out this sound thing. Before it was a pain in the ass. So, but we're here now. What's your name?
My name is Tamla. You need my birth date?
I do indeed. So is it Tamra? Is that it?
Tamla, Tamla.
Tamla, Tamla.
Mhm.
That was the name of the Motown label, right? Tamla?
Yes, indeed.
That's a cool name. All right, here we go. How many people would know that?
Not many. You have to be a music enthusiast to know that.
I would say that maybe only a handful of astrologers would know that. When's your birthday, Tamla?
6/4/71.
All right, 6-4, so it'd be there, and then 6, 1971.
And I just mean
Okay.
coming up for me as far as what the planets are saying.
What time were you born?
3:50 p.m.
3:50 p.m. And where was that?
Lafayette, Louisiana.
Lafayette, Louisiana. Lafayette. How do you spell that? I'm drawing a blank here.
Okay. LAFAYETTE. And then Louisiana.
There it is. Got it. Sorry, I had a.
That's okay. Because they got Lafayette, Indiana, Lafayette, New York.
I hit a black hole in my brain due to too many.
But you're good, because I remember I called you a while back. I think I called you a year ago, and you gave me an accurate reading, so you're good with the planets and all that.
Okay. All right, here we go. I'm looking at your chart with that wonderful grand air trine, and then this powerful opposition with Jupiter, Neptune. So you want to take a kind of a gander at this and just see what's up, or?
Yeah, because I feel like some interesting things are coming up for me. So I know it's in the planets. Because even if I read my birth chart, I just don't understand all the differences with the oppositions and squares and text, all that stuff. So that's why I wanted you to see if you can look at it and just see what stands out for me at this moment.
Let me ask you a question. Is there any way that you could take a vacation or a trip to a really interesting place that you've never been to before?
Oh, I would love to.
If you could pull that off in the next, between now and October, you would have a really wonderful time. You would have a rich, imaginative opening, and believe it or not, you might even discover a new place to live. So, and the reason
I know. It's like I've been feeling that way.
Well, the reason you're feeling that way is because Jupiter is in your 9th house right now, but it's about to move into Cancer. And so it's moving from the idea stage, which is Gemini, into the actualization stage, or the cardinal stage, which is Cancer. And that means that that it's more than just an idea, that it's something that you would actually look at and approach and try to figure out. And because it's in Cancer, it also would represent home, or potential new home, or a second home, or a home away from home, or feeling like you're going home. So if you could somehow manage this between now and, say, December, check this out. The other piece here is that it could also potentially lead you to a new career path as well, because Jupiter is going to be conjuncting your midheaven at 20 degrees, and that takes place in December. Now, I don't know if this area has any connection to you, but as I was talking to you about this, I got a very strong hit of the Caribbean and any of the islands in the Caribbean. So that might be an area that you would want to focus on or take a trip to. Now, obviously, you can't go to Cuba because...
Yeah, I know Cuba that's not a place to be. But what about Dominican Republic? Is that like in the Caribbean?
That's in the Caribbean, and that would actually be an interesting place to go to. Do you have any draw to go there or check it out?
Well, I have a friend of mine. He's a manager, and he's going to be doing some work. And he kept on saying it, and I was like, wow, I just want to go, just look, just call me and say, Tam, I got your ticket. I was saying it like that, but in the back of my mind, it's like, it don't even have to even be that place in particular. I just want to be on a beach with pretty water. I just want to be on the beach.
Okay, so there we go. We're having the same conversation right now, right? So I would look into that. And the way that you could let's just say your friend says, yeah, you got a ticket, come to the DR. So you go to the DR, right, and you go there, you check it out. Who knows? You may really like it. And guess what? He may even offer you a job. But what's interesting about the DR is that it's on the same island as Haiti, and the two places couldn't be more diametrically opposed in terms of their energy. And,
I didn't know that.
The Dominican, yeah, that's all part of the same island. Now, the Dominican Republic, which is what's interesting about the Dominican Republic is that there is some investiture happening in the Dominican Republic. They kind of want to turn it into a bit of a resort, even though there's a fair amount of poverty there. It's a very different kind of energy. So economically, it's got a very different story than Haiti. Haiti is weird. It's like they've got these like work farms, and the Chinese are heavily invested in Haiti. So the Dominican Republic belongs to a different kind of group. But you may want to just go there and check it out. And the thing is that you'll be in that region, so you could use that as kind of a jumping off point and maybe go to St. Kitts or some other place like that. But if I were you and I had an invitation and you and I are having this conversation, I would definitely check it out. So there's something about travel that leads you to the possibility of not only new home, but new career as well. The other thing that you have going on is Saturn is in your first house. And whenever Saturn transits the first house, especially with a sign like Scorpio, you have to get really serious and clear about who you are. And that is sometimes at the expense of other people, sometimes it's at the expense of relationships or friendships, but you've got to focus on you. That is essential with Saturn in the first house. And when it's in Scorpio, it's all about power, too. And people misunderstand power. They think that power is a dirty word, and power is something that we have to be scared of or shy away from or be afraid of for whatever reason. There's so many trips around power. But if you can handle it, if you can handle your own power or the power that's invested in you by God, which is really doing things that are in your best interest from the highest potential that you can see for yourself, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And so Saturn in Scorpio is really about doing away with people that want to sap your power, that want to take your power, that want to hate on you, that want to bring you down. You just put up those fences and you say, enough, this is enough.
And it's amazing that it came up in my chart now because I've been prompted to do energy work. I started in October. I had this strong pull to do energy work. So I had a friend of mine who introduced me to it, and I just started doing it and doing meditations and yoga. And I've been doing a lot of clearing since October. And then now it's in my chart now where it's a lot of the things that I was preparing for, it presented itself, it showed up, and I knew exactly how to deal with it and keep it moving.
There you go. Let's go back in time. Let's go to October. What was happening in October? Saturn was moving from Libra to Scorpio, right? Okay. And guess what? You have Moon in Libra in the first house. And so Saturn was just off of your Moon like in September and then October. So you were ready. You were ready to potentiate your Moon, your own emotional welfare, your own emotional well-being, and taking control of that. And then when it shifted into Scorpio, that's when you were getting in touch with this ability to anchor and channel some of these power, or the power of being present and being clear that you're talking about. So you're right in alignment with your path. And if that's the case, then you want to follow the arc of Jupiter in your ninth house. So if you can rig up a trip somewhere to someplace in the Caribbean, something interesting really opens up for you.
Okay, good. And you know what? It just seems like this is like a natural flow of energy. When I talk about the Caribbean and just traveling, it just seems like I've been prepared for this since last October once again up until now. So now it's almost like I'm ready to go. So thank you. Thank you for reading my chart. I'm glad it shows up in there.
Hey, you're welcome. And call back sometime and let us know how it goes, okay?
Okay, will do. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, Tamla. All right, that's Tamla. I think I have time for one more reading. Let me just check into the chat room here, see how people are doing in the chat room. Just give them I think it's still happening. There's 16 people in there. Let's go to, let's see, let's take one more call. Let's go to the, how about 719? Here we go.
Hi.
Holden. Hello there.
Hello there.
Well, welcome to the show. What's your name?
Thank you. My name's Julia.
And where are you calling from, Julia?
I'm calling from Colorado.
I hope it's a safe area of Colorado.
Yeah, I'm a little further south than all the fires, but yeah, we're safe.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
You sound like a new caller. Is this the first time you called into the show?
Yep, first time.
Okay. What's your birthday, Julia?
September 16th, 1961.
Okay. And what time?
This is a guesstimate. I would say 10:52 a.m.
Okay.
Salem Center, Ohio.
Okay. Let me see if I can find that. Salem Center. There it is. All right, so, and let's see. And there you are, in all your glory. Okay, what's on your mind today?
Well, a lot of changes going on around relationship, and I'm going to need to start looking into a career and all that good stuff. So,
are you getting a divorce?
Am I getting a Taurus?
A divorce.
Oh, it's sort of starting to look that way.
So are you married and going through separation leading towards a divorce? Is that what you're talking about here?
I'm married now and probably will be going for a divorce. Yes.
Okay. So is there anything in your mind that would change that direction, or is this all inevitable in your mind?
I think in my mind it's becoming more in the inevitable range.
Once you go past 52, 53% on something like this, it's very hard to bring the ship back into harbor. I'm just telling you. So I think the most important thing would be to clarify really where you are with this decision. Is this something that your husband or partner is also aware of, and are they kind of in the same understanding that you are?
I believe he's having an affair, so I guess you could say that.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Let's get into your chart. The big mover and shaker in your chart is Saturn. And Saturn is in the sign of Scorpio, and it's making a transit through your 12th house. And it's currently at 5 degrees. It will be going forward, and it's going to touch your natal Neptune in 2 months, okay? And the exact date on this, just so you have it handy for you, is, let's see, Saturn, and it goes to 4 to 5, and then it looks like 8 degrees, Neptune, 9 degrees. So that's going to be in September, okay? And this is the last time Saturn will pass over your Neptune. It's already been there once. And it was there right around Christmas. Actually, it was there January, February of this year. So you want to go back into January and February of this year and see kind of where your life was at that time. Generally speaking, when Saturn is on Neptune, especially in the 12th house, there's a feeling that one's life is frozen and that nothing can move forward and nothing can go back at the same time. You know, you can't go back, and moving forward is very difficult. And you're there's a feeling of almost like being stuck. in some ways. And this is classically related to the Hanged Man in the Tarot, and where you're suspended upside down for any number of reasons. And the key with the Saturn-Neptune transit, which you will experience in its fullness in September, especially because it's in the 12th house, is that you have to, in order to get through this time, say to yourself, of my own will, I can do nothing, but of thine will, all can be accomplished. And so there's a layer and a level of surrender that has to take place with Saturn on your Neptune in the 12th house. There is what I would call the paramount of a spiritual crisis in your life. Now, the good news is that once it goes over your Neptune, you're done. You're done. It's a major turning point in your life, okay? Significant. Because at that point, Saturn then begins to move forward, and by the end of the year, by the time we get to December, it's now emerging and coming out of your 12th house and onto your first house. In the last caller that I had, Tamla, I talked about Saturn in Scorpio in the first house. And it's about the centralization and the focusing of power, personal power in one's life. You could, if you are going through the end of a relationship and a divorce, you could not ask for a better transit, to be honest with you. Okay? Now, the period of where you are now to where you're headed will be a little rough. Okay? I'm not going to lie to you, because you won't have a sense as to where you're going and how it's going to turn out. But this reaches its zenith in September, and the whole process here, the whole idea is for you to get in touch with your spiritual essence, to get in touch with God. This is what's happening. Because once you do, and you're able to let go of this and invoke a quote-unquote higher power, then you are lifted out of the realm of suffering, out of the realm of stasis, and you are given direction, clear direction as to where you need to go, what you need to do. People will come into your life, and they will respond to you, and then give you opportunities to recreate yourself. And this will all happen by November and December of this year. You will be fast on the path of recreation of self. The other thing that takes place as a result of this is that Saturn will also be trining your natal Pluto in Virgo in the 10th house. And it seems to me that there could be a return to something that you used to do in order to make money or be in the world that you can re-engage with. Were you ever involved in nursing, counseling, or healthcare?
No. No, I've been in interior design.
Okay. Is that something you want to continue, or do you want to do something different?
You know, I'm really not sure. It's an interest, but I'm kind of open to all possibilities at this point.
Okay. So one of the things, can I ask where you're currently living?
Pueblo, Southern Colorado.
Southern Colorado. So one of the things that we understand that is kind of in the air right now is that there is going to be money for vocational services in healthcare. Okay, there's going to be money for that. Trust me on this. People are kicking and screaming about what's going to happen with this Affordable Care Act and how the insurance companies are actually going to make a lot more money. The way that they will keep people completely rioting is by flooding the healthcare market with investment dollars. Okay, so there's going to be jobs that are going to be available starting really around October, November of this year. So you may want to keep your eyes open, especially in your area, in terms of if you want to make a shift to be able to get into some kind of vocational healthcare or service, something that would be related to Pluto and Virgo in your 10th house. You're very creative. You have Venus in Leo. You have your true node in Leo. You have Uranus also in Leo. Your ability to harness your artistic energy, your creative energy, that's going to be coming back to you in a big way, but it won't be for a couple of years. It won't be for another 2 years. That's when Uranus in Aries gets up to around 17, 18 degrees. And when that happens, you're going to have a renaissance, a creative renaissance, and you're going to have also a romantic and heart renaissance as well. But until then, you need to do time with Saturn and Neptune in your 12th house. And if you have to isolate or move away from your current situation, Saturn on your Neptune also supports that. So this is really going within time, and the rebirth or the regenesis of your life takes place in December. And at that point, you will get some kind of help from people that are willing to help you and support you in your life. How does that sound?
Sounds good. I just have one quick question. The September, you said the Saturn in Scorpio touches natal Neptune in September. Was that first, middle, end of Neptune, or September, excuse me?
I'll be specific for you. Hold on. It actually, I take that back. Saturn, hold on. It is 9 degrees. It's on my birthday, September 22nd. So there you go. It does, in some ways, correlate with your own rebirth, your own solar return. So that's a good time for you for new starts, new beginnings, okay?
Okay. So just sort of hang in there till September and see what unfolds as I'm doing my spiritual work?
I would say, yeah, just what you need to do now is you need to meditate. You need to get strong spiritually. You need to take care of your body. You need to eat well, do your best to sleep well, and then move forward, because it feels to me like you're headed towards a divorce. And just to prepare yourself for that. And that preparation all takes place at this point at a seed stage and at a deeply spiritual level.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was wonderful. Lots of good information and lots to really, think about. So I'll listen to the archives again. So.
Okay. Well, you hang in there, okay?
All right. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And with that, we've reached the end of today's show. And I want to thank everybody for hanging in there, even though at times the transmission was just a little bit spotty. But we figured it out about halfway through, and hopefully everybody got what they needed in spite of the technical difficulties. So this is it. This is Robert Phoenix saying goodbye for today. This is the 19th of June, coming up on the solstice, which will be on Friday. And I will be doing a solstice show. I don't think I'm going to have a guest. It'll just be a live call-in show, and we'll be able to talk about the solstice and the energy and all kinds of stuff. So let's go from there, and I'll see you all on Friday. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. And you've been listening to Navigating the Astrological Matrix. RobertPhoenix.com is my website. Take care. Bye-bye.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.